Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a very exciting video, certainly an exciting interview for me because I've been watching this chap on YouTube for years and years and years. I think I first came across you, Benjamin, about 5 years ago where you did a Sunderland Till I Die review with Graham Falk. That's how long ago I've been watching your channel. So thanks for coming on today. And if people don't know who you are, you've got your own channel where you cover the EFL largely. I think when Sunderland had fell down the leagues and we're in the Championship, I used to watch you and Sam Parkin doing your predictions every week. Me getting angry because you predicted we're maybe not to win. Um, you're also on the three at the back with Conor McGilligan, which is a regular watch for me at the moment. And you're on the Sportsman all the time covering the Championship. So you're a busy man. I don't know if I've missed one of your hats there, but you are someone who's very active in the YouTube space, aren't you?
Gob for hire. Yeah, things have changed a little bit since that Sunderland Till I Die documentary came out, haven't they?
Yeah, yeah, it's been a crazy few years. I was actually in that documentary for about 30 seconds
Oh
interviewing the
yeah,
owners.
where?
Season, I think the end of season one, where the new owners came in, I was grilling them on all the stuff they were meant to be doing.
Ah, right. Yeah, I was in the Wrexham Till I whatever it's called
Yeah,
on Disney, predicting that Wrexham wouldn't finish in the top six of League One last year. So, yeah, I hereby retire from being in any documentary ever again in the future.
yeah. That Sunderland one to me now, I look back on and go, I'm almost quite glad that it was documented because while at the time it felt like it was showing Sunderland in such a negative light, when we sign players, a lot of them talk about the fact that they've seen the documentary and it's one of the reasons why they joined. And I think, unlike a lot of the documentaries you see now, especially like the Amazon ones are just PR. Like they're so they're too polished. Whereas the Sunderland one
Yeah,
was raw. The Sunderland one
yeah.
felt real, and it was such a shambles, wasn't it? Like everyone watching it was like, "Oh my god, is this how a
It's
football club
brilliant. The
operates?"
two scenes that I mean, to be fair, there's one scene that there's certain things where, like on YouTube, if you're having a bad day, that you can go back to that will just make you laugh. One of them is the "Here Comes the Hot Stepper" outtakes from Peter Kay's car share, but I'd put alongside the comedy value of the stadium music scene in Sunderland Till I Die is magnificent, and the increasing the bid for what was it, Will Grigg
Yeah,
on deadline day. Oh my god! I
yeah.
hope that was all phony. I hope that was all just TV and they were going to bid that anyway, and he wasn't just making it up. He was going to go on. But dare I say, Sunderland in a better place now, Connor.
Yeah. Let's get on to what we're going to talk about today. So the reason why I invited you on was A, because I'm a big fan and I just wanted to talk to you, but B, Sunderland have been promoted to the Premier League, and the rhetoric in the summer. And I watched a lot of your channel talking about how difficult it is, how hard it was for Ipswich, and we've had six newly promoted teams come up and come straight back down. But I think this season I've seen enough, not just from Sunderland, to be fair, from Sunderland, Leeds, and Burnley, to suggest that maybe the tide is turning a little bit. So in this video, we're going to talk about kind of the state of English football, want to talk about what happened to Ipswich and what lessons have maybe been learned, and then talk about Sunderland and the other newly promoted teams and how we've sort of got on this season. So let's talk about the state of English football to begin with, because you're somebody who talks a lot about the chasm between the Premier League and the EFL. Do you think if all three of Sunderland, Leeds, and Burnley actually go down this season, there'll be some sort of change? Or do you think that just won't happen?
I mean, there won't be any change in what the likes of myself have been saying now for years and years. And I don't want to be wise after the event, but we kind of got wise to this. Sort of 2014, 2015, the parachute payment structure went from, so the money you'd get went from, you get the same amount of money, but instead of getting it over 4 years, you get it over 3 years. And then the TV deal changed in the Premier League, and that's just been going up and up and up. And if you're not kind of across all of this, the parachute payments are money paid down to the Championship based on what Premier League TV money is. So I suppose, to use an analogy, it's almost like, I don't know, you're working for insurance company A, and then you go and work for insurance company B, and you get paid 10 times the amount of money you did. And then when you go back to insurance company number, A or whatever, for 3 years, you still get half of what you were getting anyway at insurance company A, which um, yeah, I don't know whether insurance companies are a good way to do it, but look, the whole point of the chasm is that Premier League clubs earn, I don't know, 100, 110 million, I don't know what the number is now, TV money a season, and Championship clubs earn 7, 12 million. If you're Sunderland or Leeds, Villa, you got really big fan base. You know, you're going to be on Sky a lot. You're going to put eyeballs on the TV. You probably make a little bit more. But the point stands is that we have a system in English football where teams pass in between the Championship and the Premier League. And can you imagine running a business where the main line item on your income and expenditure either multiplies by 10 or, and this is where the parachute payments are actually sensible in some way, halves or thirds. But the whole point is that the amount of money Premier League against the amount of money EFL is just crazy, which has made a very boring system, because obviously then teams that have gone up have found it increasingly hard to compete, and the compounding nature of this has seen 6 clubs fail, as you say, in a row. So we're in the 4th year of the same 17 clubs, with other clubs yo-yoing. And I mean, you ask a really good question, Connor. Should something be done if they all stay up? If Leeds, Burnley and Sunderland all stay up, that doesn't solve the problem. All they've done is just swam against a massive tide, and we happen to have a year where the masses of money on one side, and no disrespect to Burnley, but you categorise Leeds and Sunderland as big historic clubs. Obviously, Burnley's history goes back a few decades before, but in terms of generations that are going to games now, Leeds and Sunderland still tick that box with with those sorts of successes going back to the 70s and being in the Premier League through the 90s and the noughties. But yeah, I don't know who fixes it, because you've essentially got Party A has got to share their money with Party B, and they might not want to, but independent regulator klaxon goes off. And do you know the sad thing is that it would be more likely that something would happen if the 3 promoted clubs all get relegated than if we get some success. People will say, "Oh, there you go, it's not a problem," and you're like, "Really? There's problems and correlations and solutions." And as you can hear, I've been rambling and moaning about this for a long time. And I just think I want a fair playing field for all clubs. And Sunderland fans will find, if you get relegated, that you go from being... I know Sunderland were relegated, had parachute payments, lost the parachute payments, but Sunderland should be a hero because they're in League One. They got promoted without them. The second you come down, as I'm finding now as an Ipswich fan, this system means that you are despised, as soon as you're in the Championship, even though when you're in the Premier League, you're a massive underdog.
What, in terms of things that need to change, and I actually think this is going to be an interesting season, because I think it's possible that the 3 relegated teams may struggle to get back up to the Premier League, which could be interesting. I do like the look of Middlesbrough and West Brom in particular, so that might be interesting. But I think that there is an answer to this issue that comes from allowing teams to spend more money in the Premier League. And I know you'll probably initially go, well, that's absolutely crazy. But if you keep PSR in, as it is, but fine clubs that breach it. So we're not talking about points deductions. If Newcastle want to spend £1 billion, fine, do it. But you have to pay some sort of reparation to the game. So whether or not that means if you breach PSR by 100 million, you are fined 50 million, and that 50 million pounds goes down the pyramid in a sort of an equal flow, so that you actually get a trickle down. I'm sounding like Ronald Reagan here. Trickle down economics. You actually do see that happen. I would be very interested to see who would oppose that, because teams like Newcastle and Aston Villa, them two in particular, Chelsea, maybe Man United. There's a lot of teams in the Premier League that are really struggling with PSR, but actually want to spend money and think that they've got the resource. So, do you let them spend and just say, "Yeah, that's fine," but you've got to pay essentially a luxury tax? Like I think they do this in the NBA. You've got a luxury tax. That money then goes to down the pyramid. So the championship, if would get a percentage of that money, League One would, all the way down to the bottom of the game. Do you think something like that is potentially an answer?
No, I can see. I can see who would suggest it. I mean, that's great if you've got massive catch-rich owners. That would solve the situation for them, which is great. And it's always hard to find with a complex problem. There's never a simple solution. So that would be great for Villa, Newcastle, Forest. Be good for Ipswich. You know, they've got in terms of be great for Birmingham and Wrexham, wouldn't it? They'd be set. They'd definitely be top of the championship, both for them right now. The only problem is, I suppose it's, you know, you can parlay this into a conversation about capitalism and life. What does that do for Preston? What does that do for, I don't know, I suppose Bristol City have actually got quite rich owners. What does that do for Swansea right now? Not a hell of a lot. So I agree with your concerns about PSR because we got a stupid system in the Premier League where Sunderland, Leeds and Burnley come up at a disadvantage already. Sunderland especially because they don't have parachute payments on their 3 years rolling limit. So they're in the... And I had some Sunderland fan who failed to understand what I was trying to say in my YouTube comments where I was trying to explain this, that they're actually at a disadvantage, even though Sunderland have banked everything well and performed well, that you are at a disadvantage if you have, so what, Burnley would have had 2 years of Premier League, no, 1 year, excuse me, of Premier League and 1 year of parachutes. No, if you go on the three, Premier League, Championship, Premier League, if you go, because you're doing it a year in arrears. What I'm saying is Sunderland didn't have any Premier League money or any parachute money on their 3 year rolling limit. So it doesn't matter what your trading has done. Okay, you can have some great examples like, say, a Joe Bellingham on your books for that, where you've booked a massive profit. But it just compared then to a Premier League club who's then got 3 years of 100 million per year TV money. What is a Joe Bellingham brilliant deal, you know, in the background? So yeah, I agree with you that something could be done in terms of the PSR. Whether the luxury tax helps or not, I don't know. I think maybe I was a bit flippant when I just said no. Would that solve the problem? I can see where you're coming from in that. I agree PSR's a bit dumb because of the chasms already. You're applying a logical rule to a stupid situation. It'd be like, I don't know, having speed limits or something, but the cars can all go 300, or one of the cars can go 300 miles an hour and one of the cars can go 20 miles an hour, and you make the speed limit 40 miles an hour. Doesn't really help either party at any point, does it? It would be having cars that could kind of go a similar speed might help, or have the opportunity to go a similar speed. I think it's the distribution right the way down. I have no problem whatsoever with Man United, with decades of success and a worldwide fan base and the ability to print money, being able to invest that money. No problem with that at all. And I am a little bit uncomfortable with oligarch or a nation state or whoever being able to come in and all of a sudden Blackburn, Chelsea, Newcastle, Man City are now, they're going to win English football for 15 years straight. That doesn't feel fair on Sunderland, who have got decades of history and all of that. It's really hard, isn't it? You just would want, I don't want to sound like, you mentioned Ronald Reagan, I'll sound like Bernie Sanders now, because you would love team number one in the pyramid to make that much, and then have a nice, let me go that way from the video, nice sliding scale down to team 92. It doesn't even have to be a perfect sliding scale. Of course, it can be a curve like that. But at the moment, we just have cliff edges, which are which is just stupid. But I appreciate this is a very, very complex problem to solve.
Yeah, probably not something that could be solved in a YouTube video, to be fair.
In 30 minutes, yeah, right.
Yeah,
With
probably
our
not.
two brains.
Let's talk about Ipswich, though, and we'll get. I think it's natural we'll do bits of comparisons with Sunderland throughout this. But when I looked at Ipswich last summer, I had one red flag, and that was that they recruited so many EFL players, and that was clearly a policy that they decided. All their players, I think, correct us if I'm wrong, but I think they were all from English-based teams, weren't they? They all were
The permanent signings, yeah.
yeah. So it's interesting that this summer that's kind of been flipped. None of the teams did that. I know that Millwall, Burnley had bought players that had been on loan, like from EFL teams, but none of them had specifically went out and went, you know what, we're going to buy Hayden Hackney because he's the best central midfielder in the Championship. Do you think that Ipswich making those mistakes I don't know if you think they were mistakes. To me, it looks like mistakes. Now a year on that they've been relegated. Do you think Ipswich making those sort of signings and it not working has affected the way that Sunderland, Leeds and Burnley recruited this summer?
No. In respect of so the thing you need to understand about Ipswich is that they were in League One 2 years before they were in the Premier League. So they're in a completely unique situation in this kind of chasm world we live in. So not only did Ipswich not have a parachute payment on their books, and therefore players already in and around their squad on the types of salaries and with the types of credibility that you want in the Premier League, they also didn't have what even Sunderland have. And Sunderland have no parachute payments, but Sunderland have things left over in terms of Premier League setup and experience of the... When did Sunderland get relegated? 2016?
17.
2017. There you go. So Sunderland were in the Premier League 15 years after Ipswich were. So what people don't realise about Ipswich is there were something like 120 infrastructure things that had to be done because it was such a surprise promotion out of nowhere that had to be done basically between May and August. So the club basically had to be built into a Premier League setup very quickly. And just in the squad, they basically had the players they signed in League One, and Ipswich in League One were the wealthiest team and, you know, the most powerful team. But it was Leif Davis, Sam Morsey, Nathan Broadhead, who you'd know well, Luke Wolfenden, who came through, keeper from Salford, the winger from Fleetwood. Do you know what I mean? Centre-back from Accrington. These are the players Ipswich went up with, and they almost had to go, right, well, step one is you at least need this no man's land style squad, you know, this in between yo-yo level squad before you can go for the full Premier League squad. What's good in terms of Sunderland is Sunderland were already in the Championship in the couple of seasons they were up. What did they do? They did playoffs, didn't they, with Mowbray? Then
horrendous the next year.
Then horrendous the next year with Mike Dodds and
Mick Beale. Oh god.
Mick Beale, god, yeah. And then amazing with the Briefs. So they had 3 years in the Championship, and they'd already been going all across Europe with the sort of Louis Dreyfus ownership and with Christian. Was Christian Speakman there in the first year in the Championship?
Yeah, Christian Speakman came in, I think, December 2021. So he was League One. So he helped bring in players like Dennis Cirk and Trey Hume, who all came in when we were in League One. So he's been, the journey has been with him.
Yeah, well, he's done a pretty damn good job when those are the first two names you mentioned, hasn't he? So Sunderland had already been in that kind of market, whereas someone like Ipswich had just built a team to win in League One. Didn't even win League One, finished second in League One to Plymouth, and then that team had just blitzed straight through the Championship. So there are similarities. I think particularly Sunderland being promoted without a parachute payment is a similarity, but big differences in terms of infrastructure and what you're kind of coming up with. That's not to say Sunderland are not at a giant disadvantage compared to the 17, and compared to Burnley and Leeds as well, who have had Premier League years far more recently in the gold rush and did get promoted with a parachute payment. And all you want, Connor, is for your business plan not to have to change tenfold when you move between divisions. And there's far more of a sense that Sunderland's will, as opposed to Leeds. We know when Leeds didn't go up in 23-24 when they lost in the playoff final, that was the highest wage bill to never get promoted. And as much as you can use that as a stick to beat Leeds with, you can at least say, oh, financially, the balance sheet isn't going like that. It's kind of riding straight through. So that would be the key difference. And the other thing you would say is, who can you get? Who can you bring in? It's obviously, look, I'm a bit defensive about Ipswich and I stand up for them. But when people say to me in a loud voice, Ipswich should have signed Premier League experience, and I say, okay, who? They go very quiet, very quickly. And I'm not just being an arsehole. I'm saying, okay, who that went to other similar clubs?
Yeah.
Tell me what their salary is relative to Ipswich's wage budget and PSR position, and tell me realistically that they could have signed. And the one thing Ipswich really did get wrong is you need more Premier League experience. They went for Calvin Phillips, didn't work. They went for Aro Muric, and this is a great direct comparison. Get your bloody keeper signing right, and that's something that I know he had one go through his hands at the weekend, but Sunderland looked like they got the keeper sorted out as well pretty early. So, yeah, it's a long defensive ramble about Ipswich, Connor.
I look at the fixture list as well, and I think Sunderland, the football gods, if they do exist, did bless Sunderland with a pretty kind start of the season. And look, there's a pressure with that. You have to win those games. If we lose against West Ham at home on the opening day of the season, I'm going, well, that's horrendous. We're in big trouble. If we lose against Brentford at home, the same sort of thought. But Ipswich start with Liverpool at home and Man City away. Then I think they maybe drew 4 in a row after that, probably trying to find their feet. But to me, I think that really makes a difference. And I know you've got to play everyone twice, and does it really matter? But I think for a newly promoted
yes, it does.
Team, it does, because also you can tell Sunderland have momentum, and that momentum continued because they won 3-0 on the opening day, and the crowd and everything else that comes with it. There's positivity. Ipswich played Liverpool at home. I remember watching the game. I think it was 0-0 at half time. And
did all right for the first half, didn't they?
And I think they went 1-0 up against Man City as well, and then lost 4-1.
I think that was virtually the only shot they had. Yeah. They had in the game at Man City. But
it's cruel though. Like, I think that really does make a difference that you don't get off to a good start.
Oh, it's people in life, not just football. People are very prone when something good happens to say that was them being brilliant, and when something bad happens to say that was bad luck. Where there's good luck and bad luck everywhere in football. I mean, look at the end of last season for Sunderland and the playoff games. You can say Sunderland were, quote, lucky in all 3 of the playoff games, or you can say you get doors open in life and in football. And is Isidore going to run through and smash in a goal against Coventry? Is Ballard going to head one in just before the penalties? And I was there at the final. It was kind of like that was the only way Sunderland were going to win that game at that point, and almost played into their hands that they had to go for it. And yeah, okay, the fixtures open up a little bit. You still got to go and win them, haven't you? And I talk a lot, particularly in reference to Ipswich, that you just have to be at like 8 out of 10 on a lot of things in the Premier League. And Sunderland, brilliant so far. You want to see, right, can you be good at home? Yes. Can you get most of your recruitment right? Yes. Can you ride out some momentum? Yes. Can you get your goalkeeper and your set plays right? Can you run, tackle, head it, kick it, and do all of those things? Because you're relegated straight away if you can't do any of those things. And if you get some good luck, because you'll get some bad luck, then Yeah, cash in on it. And I totally agree with your point that it's not as simple as you play everybody twice. Who you're playing in August and September is a massive help. And Connor on three at the back has got this stat about 11 points from 10 games. And can you front load the points, get ahead of 1 point per game, and at least give yourself a fighting chance of 35, 36 points? And then that puts pressure on owners of other clubs to do silly things. And then that can be bad luck for them and good luck for you. And stupid things like, timing of opponents. Can you get Forest after they've played in Europe? Can you get Wolves before they sack their manager rather than after they sack their manager? And, we try and be impartial here, but obviously I'd love Sunderland to stay up, and I'd love all of the good luck things to go for them. And, because take your good luck on the one hand and take the system essentially being massively against them on the other hand. And I'm like, well, don't they deserve some nice fixtures to start with?
What have you made of Sunderland's recruitment in the sense that I'd listened to you talk about physicality? I remember you referenced it on your channel. I think it was Crystal Palace came to Portman Road and just bossed Ipswich from start to finish. And Sunderland,
Fulham as well were massive, Connor.
Yeah. But Sunderland, to me, have recruited for physicality. I mean, you look at the centre backs; they've got Alderete, Ballard, and Mukwele. They've got in there who are huge.
Love it.
Xhaka's we're talking about Premier League experience. That's a player with experience. That's a one that they've got over the line. But I look all over that Sunderland team, and I think they have maybe looked at the downfall of some of the teams that have been in the Premier League recently and went, God, we've got to get big. Leeds have done that as well. I mean, Leeds have bought big. They've got a team full of giants. But it feels like they've seen that physicality is something you have to address if you're going to have any chance of picking up points in the Premier League.
Yeah, and Sam Allardyce would love this conversation, wouldn't he? But let's be honest, I've heard Gary Neville say yesterday that Arsenal are a team of giants. And I think I just had this epiphany, when the players line up before the game, and it was early in the season, I was looking at the Fulham players, and you kind of went down the line, and you're like, these guys are either extremely good technically, extremely good physically, or both, which is bloody scary. And Sunderland can't get the extremely good technique. And I'm talking about at Premier League level. I know Enzo Lefebvre is very good technically, or Chris Rigg is very good technically, but the elite ones, they're not coming to a team that was in the EFL last season. They're going for 80, 100 million quid to a team that's in Europe. You can't get them. So if you can make, and I mean, this is a tale as old as time, isn't it? If you can make it up a bit on physicality, I just think people like Cristiano Ronaldo and Gareth Bale, where they were world-class technically and then just an absolute bloody tank. As a Drogba as well, these players in the early noughties, it wasn't that you could have Chris Waddle, a great former Sunderland and Newcastle player, on the wing, and he just doesn't have to do any defending. You can't really do that anymore, can you? So, yeah, I love the physicality of it, but we already knew that Sunderland were going to be ahead of the curve in terms of, finding exotic clubs and, players to bring in anyway. So, double tick in the box there as things stand.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about what you think. I mean, look, I'm not going to ask for brazen predictions of I think so-and-so will stay up, but at the start of the season, I imagine, and certainly I did as a fan, I had trepidation thinking I thought Leeds maybe would have the best chance. Sunderland had made so many signings, it was hard to pinpoint whether or not.
Why did you think Leeds would have the best chance? Just because they were champions last year?
Just because they were champions, but also I watch a lot of your friend Conor McGilligan, a lot of his channel, and he was getting me excited about a lot of their signings, and he was getting me thinking, do you know what? If they can't get this,
don't listen to him. Hey,
yeah. But I just thought Leeds. They started from the highest. They had the best. I know they finished level with Burnley, but they had the best team. So I thought Leeds probably had the best chance of the three. But I don't know if this is biased now, but I think Sunderland have probably got the best chance now of the three. I feel like that's a general consensus that I'm seeing everywhere, that Sunderland, you know what, because of their business and what they've done and who they've brought, like Xhaka for me is I still can't really understand why he plays for Sunderland. I don't
Well,
really
let me
get how
reframe
that
it for
happened.
you, Connor. Who's on the best trend upwards out of the three? It's
Yeah,
Sunderland, isn't it? Because they've come
yeah,
from, a playoff win and a new manager and the crest of a wave. Whereas it is easy to get stuck in the mud, yo-yoing between the divisions. And as much as Leeds and Burnley had a big advantage in terms of having the parachute payments, that does bring its own stresses as well for them. So, look, if momentum and good feeling are real and a tangible trend up continues, then yeah, I can buy your Sunderland argument. And I think because of good recruitment in the past and the PSR position being okay for Sunderland, and they've invested aggressively, which you have to, then maybe that closes the gap on a Leeds and a Burnley. It doesn't close a gap on a Palace or a Brentford or
yeah,
a Fulham or a Brighton or any of those teams where we have this idea in our head that Sunderland are a bigger club than Brentford. And it's like, well, yeah, in terms of history and fan base, but who's banked, £500 million of TV money in the
yeah.
last few years? It's not Sunderland, it's Brentford, isn't it? But I just tapped in 8 divided by 5 and then multiplied it by 38 games, and yeah, Sunderland are projecting 60 points. I'm
Yeah,
sure you'd be happy for me to minus probably over 20 off that and give you a total. But yeah, make hay while the sun's shining for sure.
I think Sunderland must be the first team as well to have went up to the Championship probably profitable. I'm gonna guess. I mean, because they sold Jack Clark last summer, didn't really reinvest the money. I
It'll
mean, that
depend
that
on
must
the
be,
promotion, but often you think someone's going
yeah,
to be
that's true.
profitable, and then they have to pay 20 million quid in promotion bonuses, and it kills any profit they were going to make. But we're splitting hairs, aren't we?
Yeah,
It's an excellent achievement, and I don't know what Ipswich's numbers were. I think promotion bonuses might have killed that and made that
they
quite a
spent a bit in
loss.
the January, didn't they? Because they bought in like Kiefer Moore. I remember.
Yeah, Kiefer came in on loan, didn't he? I think it'll be salaries,
Yeah,
bonuses, and things, and not selling anybody, essentially, Ipswich, until Liam Delap and Amari Hutchinson this season. Their transfer record sale was like 4 million
yeah,
quid. But the
not
point
good.
stands is that, what was Sunderland's biggest signing to get up? You'll tell me.
I mean, they paid 3.5 million for Isidore in January, so
Yeah.
probably that. All the
Not a
fee, I suppose, in January
Not
as
a
well.
Yeah, and it's difficult because then you don't know which year they put that on the books.
Yeah,
It's whichever year is better for the
yeah,
PS, and it'll be divided over the length of his contract, and us mere mortals can't add all this stuff up. But your point totally stands on, compared to. But no, I suppose Burnley did the same. All their ones were loans to buy, and then the
yeah,
fees for Jaden Anthony and Marcus Edwards and whoever have gone through this season, haven't they?
yeah. Last one before I let you go. If Ipswich got promoted again this season, which they
Doesn't
got
look
a nice,
likely at the moment, does it?
well, I mean they got a nice bonus at the weekend with that game getting postponed or abandoned.
Maybe, yeah.
What actually's happening with that? Do they? Because I'd read somewhere that after 75 minutes, if a game's abandoned, it goes to an EFL
Yeah, I mean, the
board.
EFL decided. It's weird, actually, because this happened to Ipswich in League One, where they're playing Oxford in ridiculous fog. And someone came out with this 75 minutes. And then when it was researched, it turned out to be nonsense. And basically, the EFL has just got jurisdiction. I think Ipswich are going to get away with one there. It's pretty unlucky for Blackburn. But
Yeah,
unfortunately, while you're falling over yourself trying to make it, quote, fair, um, law number one in the football book is a game lasts for 90
yeah,
minutes and is
it's
played
true.
for 90 minutes. And as much as I'm genuinely hearing intelligent people tell me that, right, so you need to play 10 versus 11 for 10 minutes. And I'm like, okay, do we need to wet the pitch and players have to run on a treadmill for the previous 80 to, it starts to get so ludicrous in terms of making it, quote, fair, that it ends up the only fair thing you can do is do what football does and play a 90-minute match. But we're
Replay.
not
I
here
think
to not here to
yeah, I was
talk
going to
about
say
that now. Sorry, go on.
no. Last question. What do you think Ipswich would do if they got promoted? Do you think they would? And I take your point. And I, to be honest, at the start, I had not thought about Ipswich recruitment in the way that you framed it, where I knew that obviously came out of League One into the
Mm.
Championship in the Premier League, and that changed maybe what they could do compared to Sunderland, who were a bit more stable and had a very clear recruitment model. I imagine if Sunderland went up that year, they lost against Luton in the playoffs, we might have seen
There you
a
go.
similar
That's the
sort of recruitment
comparison, isn't
model.
it? Yeah.
But do you think Ipswich, if they went up this time, would change the way they went after players? Because I do think that if they could redo that summer again, they might have made some different signings and tried maybe to bring in some riskier players from abroad.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I mean, part of me wants to think, and this is something you'll hear me say a lot on my channel. I don't play poker, but in poker, you can get a hand and play it perfectly and still lose. And
True.
I mean, if you look at the Liam Delap deal, part of me says, what the hell more could they have done? The only way you could get Liam Delap was with the exit clause for 30 million, else he's not going to sign. I think Liam Delap was the best signing made by any of the promoted clubs last season. He scored lots of goals, proofs in the pudding. He now plays up in the top four or wherever Chelsea, world champions, Chelsea. So don't tell me they wouldn't sign Liam Delap over again, because that was a hell of a signing. If they got promoted again, they would be promoted, and this is a facetious answer, with a far better squad as a basis, and they'd be promoted with a, whatever it is, a 45 million quid parachute payment on their allowable limits for PSR in terms of the 3 years. So they would be in a wholly stronger position. Would they sign 10 players all around the 8 to 15 to 18 million mark? No, you'd hope they'd go in and maybe do a little bit more what Sunderland have done, where there's a couple of players who've come in a level above that, and they've signed African players, Sunderland, and it tried to exploit that market and very much more in the European market. So they would be more in a position to do it. And you say with great humility there, you make a very good point. What would Sunderland have done if they'd beaten Luton and got to the Premier League that season? It would have been very different, because all of a sudden the higher ups at Sunderland would have been going, "Oh, okay, we've done a 5-year plan in 2 years here. We need to adjust." But I don't want to make this whole thing about defending what Ipswich did, because what Sunderland have done and are doing is very good. Don't get carried away. There is still...
I'm getting carried away.
Yeah. I mean, no, do get carried away, because it's great. And you mention Ipswich getting pasted by Man City and Liverpool in the first 2 games. And I mean, when did Ipswich have 2 wins? It was probably Christmas. And Sunderland have got 2 wins already. Brilliant. Amazing. Just brace yourself that there could be 6 defeats in a row, and you don't score a point for 2 months with the international breaks and all of that. That could happen. But Sunderland are in a far stronger position than Ipswich were. And I don't know, probably Southampton. I mean, Leicester are different because they had a lot of off-the-pitch problems that Sunderland don't. And let's be fair, Ipswich didn't. But, I mean, you got to love a 60-point projection at however many games you've played, Connor, haven't you? So, I have everything crossed that, mate, I'm saying it on a Sunderland channel. I don't care who stays up, as long as one of them stays up, and that feels like the best we can hope for. Can we just get one of Sunderland, Leeds and Burnley? If we got 2, I think that's good for English football. But to circle back to the first question, doesn't solve the problem, and it might even be a net negative, because it papers over the cracks for another year, because, Sunderland did it. We don't have to change the distribution. Look at Sunderland, and it's like, not so sure about that.
Yeah, no, it's looking good. I mean, 8 points ahead of Wolves. I keep looking at Wolves and thinking, right, we're 8 points ahead of them, so that's 3 wins. And I don't think any of the teams last season got anywhere close to being... I don't think any of them were ever out the bottom 3 for any period of time, really. So,
do you know the really depressing thing is, if you look at the table at Christmas, Wolves were terrible and then just went on a tear with their 2 first-choice Brazil central midfielders. Palace were awful. Spurs had their worst season in decades. Man United had a historically atrocious season. There were a lot of teams that were really, really bad and still had plenty in reserve to hold off the three promoted teams. So yeah, you're looking at a Wolves, you're looking at a West Ham. Can they sack 5 managers this season and give you guys a chance? And yeah, Brentford, Villa are
Brentford.
down there at the moment. Brentford's an interesting one, isn't it? That's one that a lot of people have held on to. And you already beat Brentford and West Ham, and that's something.
Yeah.
None of the promoted teams, they got in a head-to-head, but like you mentioned, the Palace game, we got in a head-to-head with Palace. Here we go, right, we're going to drag them in. No, there's Gay, there's
No.
Mateta, there's Eze. Nah, not having it,
Yeah.
lads.
I think as well, we saw yesterday, I'm sorry I keep dragging this on, but
No,
yesterday
you're good, mate, you're good.
against Aston Villa for Sunderland, going down to 10 men. This happened to Ipswich. Ipswich seemed to get loads of red cards last season. I don't know how many they got, but I feel like often I saw Leif Davis red card popping up on my screen. But 1-0 down against Aston Villa, down to 10 men for an hour in the game, but generally having the better of the chances.
Love
The
it.
goal you conceded was a 30-yard screamer, which went in the top corner, which we can talk about the goalkeeper, but still an audacious goal. That gave me more hope than anything else I've seen this season with Sunderland, was
Yeah, that's great.
that
And
result.
simple things. Keepers take that goal you just mentioned. That keeper is in the main playing well and saving stuff.
Yeah,
Strikers are scoring as well.
yeah,
It's to quote the great Brian Clough. It's a simple game that's often complicated by idiots, isn't it? And you know, defenders stop stuff, strikers score goals, crowd cheer, win at home, buy players who are better than the ones you had last season. Cross fingers, yeah.
yeah. That's how it works. So thanks, Ben, for coming on today. It's
Oh,
been
my
really fun.
pleasure.
I'm sure we'll maybe catch up at a later point this season. Maybe when Sunderland are bottom of the league at Christmas, and I'm like,
No.
"How did you get through this when you were with Ipswich?"
Oh, mate, it's it. I don't. I know it's been a great promotion and a great start. I don't wish that on anyone because I think you can tolerate your team giving it a good crack and not being as good. Fine, you can. They're
Yeah,
trying. They're just not as good. But when it feels like the odds are so stacked against you that it's actually impossible and you can't do what you're being asked, that's hard to turn up week in, week out. But let's hope. Sunderland are 7th. They're projecting 60 points. Spoiler alert, Sunderland will not finish with 60 points and in 7th place or, wherever that would leave them. But let's hope that they just keep knocking on a win. One win a month. That'll do, won't it? One win in a month and a couple of draws and 35 points. Fingers crossed someone else is terrible and we're sat here at the end of the season and it's another year in the Premier League.
yeah, and we're talking about Ipswich back in the Premier League as well. Thanks for coming on, and check out
Pleasure.
Ben's channels. He's got his channel, and then he's got other stuff going on, the three at the back and all that I mentioned at the start. So check them out; they're always worth a watch. Particularly three at the back now with being Sunderland, because it basically focuses on the newly promoted teams, doesn't it? It seems to strongly be. I presume you'll be talking about Leeds, presumably tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is it you record that? It'll probably
Yeah,
be
yeah.
heavy on Leeds after their win against Wolves at the weekend. So thanks everyone for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you think of everything we've talked about here. We've talked about so much the state of English football. How do you fix it? Sunderland and Ipswich and all the lessons learned there. And we'll catch you soon for another video. I think I've got Danny Collins. Do you remember Danny Collins, former
Oh, he played for Ipswich
Sunderland
as well.
stuff?
We had him on
Yeah,
loan. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. He's coming on the channel this week to talk about the start of the season. So
Oh, nice one.
that'll be good fun. So yeah, stick around for that one. And yeah, thanks Ben, and we'll see you all
Pleasure.
soon.